doctor mocked the new nurse, but discovers she saved his son 2 years ago. Dr. Michael Richardson was having yet another bad day at Mercy General Hospital, the most prestigious in New York City. The pressures from administration, complex cases, and his own arrogance made him increasingly intolerant of those he deemed incompetent. It was in this state of mind that he encountered the new nurse struggling to pronounce pneumothorax during the shift handover. Her thick, rural Louisiana accent mangled the word completely, drawing muffled laughter from the other staff. "Say it again," Dr. Richardson ordered, interrupting the meeting. "I want to hear how you pronounce that word properly." Ashley Johnson felt her face grow hot. She had arrived from Lafayette just a week earlier, carrying all her dreams and the determination to prove she belonged there. She took a deep breath and tried again. Pneumotho... Stop! Dr. Richardson raised his hand dismissively. "This is unacceptable. How am I supposed to trust critical cases to someone who can't even pronounce basic medical terms?" The other staff lowered their eyes, uncomfortable with the situation. Ashley swallowed the lump in her throat and stood tall. "Doctor, I may not speak like you, but I know my job well," she replied firmly, despite the tremor in her voice. "Job?" Dr. Richardson let out a bitter laugh. "What fifth-rate rural hospital taught you how to work? This place is different, sweetheart. Here, we save real lives. We don't treat country colds." The words cut deep. Ashley thought of her mother, Mrs. Dorothy, who had sold the family's only 2 cows to pay for her schooling. She thought of her father, Mr. Harold, who worked the cotton fields to fund her education. She thought of all the patients she had cared for with love and dedication at her hometown's municipal hospital. "Doctor, everyone deserves medical care, no matter where they come from," she said softly. "How noble, Doctor." Richardson rolled his eyes. "But reality here is different. I suggest you find a hospital more suited to your level." Nurse Barbara, a 50-year-old veteran, discreetly touched Ashley's arm, a silent gesture of support that didn't escape the doctor's notice. "Barbara, got something to say?" he asked threateningly. "No, doctor, just reminding everyone we need to finish the handover." Dr. Richardson looked Ashley over once more, as if memorizing every feature for future humiliation. "Fine. You, nurse, what was your name again?" "Ashley Johnson, doctor." "Nurse Johnson, you'll only handle patients in rooms 101 to 110. The simplest cases. No ICU, no emergencies, nothing requiring real knowledge. Understood?" "Yes, sir." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, back to the story. In the days that followed, Ashley's life at the hospital became a living nightmare. Dr. Richardson seemed to have made her his personal mission. Whenever he saw her in the halls, he'd assign humiliating tasks or make sarcastic remarks about her background. "Nurse Johnson," he called one Tuesday morning as she organized medications. "Why don't you explain to the team how you treat colds with herbal tea? That must be your specialty." Laughter echoed through the nursing station. Ashley pretended not to hear and kept working, but inside, each word felt like a dagger to her heart. What hurt most wasn't just the humiliation, it was the injustice. She knew she was capable. During her 5 years working at the hospital in Lafayette, she had saved many lives, faced complex emergencies, and earned the respect of all her colleagues. But here, in that hostile environment, she was beginning to doubt herself. One night, during her shift, Ashley was organizing medical records when she heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. "Doctor." Michael appeared visibly upset, followed by an elegant woman in her 40s. "Where's Dr. Thompson?" he asked Barbara. "He stepped out for coffee, doctor. He'll be back in 10 minutes. "Damn it!" Dr. Michael ran a hand through his hair. "My wife isn't feeling well. Chest pain, shortness of breath." Ashley discreetly glanced at the woman, who did indeed look pale and distressed. Her years of experience made her notice certain signs that caught her attention. "Dr. Sarah," Dr. Michael called the on-duty cardiologist over the intercom. "I need you here right away." While they waited, Ashley noticed that the doctor's wife, Jennifer, began showing symptoms she knew well. Her breathing was becoming shallower, and she pressed her hand against her chest in a specific way. Doctor, Ashley approached hesitantly. May I ask your wife a few questions? Just to... You? Dr. Michael stared at her in disbelief. Do you think my wife is some hillbilly you can examine? No, doctor, I just... Stay in your place, he shouted, making other staff members turn their way. Jennifer, despite feeling unwell, sensed the tension and touched her husband's arm. Michael, let her speak. I'm scared. Don't worry, darling. Dr. Sarah is on her way. He tenderly stroked his wife's face, showing a side completely different from the arrogant man Ashley knew. Dr. Sarah arrived 15 minutes later and, after a quick evaluation, diagnosed acute anxiety. She prescribed an anti-anxiety medication and suggested Jennifer undergo some routine tests the following week. Thank you, Sarah. Dr. Michael shook his colleague's hand. I was really worried. When they left, Barbara approached Ashley. You wanted to say something about his wife, didn't you? Ashley hesitated. She had noticed some signs that could indicate gastroesophageal reflux, a condition often mistaken for heart problems. But after the public humiliation, she didn't have the courage to insist. It wasn't anything important, she murmured. The following week, things got even worse for Ashley. Dr. Michael seemed to have taken her attempt to help as a personal affront. He began questioning every procedure she performed, criticizing every report she wrote, and worst of all, making comments about her competence in front of patients. Don't worry, Mr. George, he said to an elderly patient Ashley was treating. I'll have a more experienced nurse check if she did everything right. Nurse Johnson is still learning. Mr. George, a 70-year-old man admitted for a simple surgery, looked at Ashley with sympathy. Young lady, you remind me of my granddaughter. She also came from the country to work in the big city. Don't pay any mind to those comments. You're doing a good job. The patient's kind words touched Ashley deeply. For a moment, she felt like crying but held back. Thank you, Mr. George. You're very kind. After Dr. Michael left, Mr. George struck up a conversation with her. Where are you from, dear? Lafayette, Louisiana. Oh, I know it. Passed through there a few years ago when I visited a cousin in New Orleans. Pretty town. Must have been hard leaving your family to come here. It was, but I always dreamed of working at a big hospital like this. And you're living your dream, even with these challenges, Mr. George smiled. My granddaughter went through something similar. At first, the folks at the company where she worked would poke fun at her way of speaking. Today, she's the manager. The conversation with Mr. Harold gave Ashley the strength to keep going. She decided she wouldn't let Dr. Richardson's humiliations make her give up on her dreams, but the doctor still had more unpleasant surprises in store for her. The following Thursday, during a medical team meeting, Dr. Richardson brought up an issue that left Ashley completely exposed. I need to discuss the quality of care in certain departments, he began, looking straight at her. I've received some complaints about improper procedures. Ashley felt her stomach tighten. She knew any complaint would be made up or exaggerated by him. Nurse Johnson, he continued, the gentleman in room 105 mentioned you took too long to respond to his call last night. Doctor, I was handling an emergency in room 107. The lady had fainted, and... Emergency? Dr. Richardson cut in mockingly. A lady who fainted because she forgot to take her blood pressure medication? That's an emergency to you. She was unconscious, doctor. Any loss of consciousness should be treated as a priority. See, that's exactly the kind of poor judgment that concerns me. You turned a simple case into a drama, leaving other patients waiting. Dr. Thompson, the senior physician on the team, intervened quietly. Michael, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Thompson. It's important the whole team understands the standards we expect here. Ashley felt tears forming, but refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She took a deep breath and replied, Doctor, I always treat every patient with the same care and attention. If I made a mistake, I'd like to know specifically what it was so I can improve. The mistake, Nurse Johnson, is you thinking you're qualified to make medical decisions. You're just a nurse, and from a rural hospital at that. Know your place. The silence in the room grew awkward. Some colleagues looked at the floor, others at the walls, all clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Dr. Thompson cleared his throat. Well, I think we can wrap up the meeting here. Everyone has plenty of work to do. When the room emptied, only Ashley and Barbara remained behind. Ashley, Barbara said softly, don't take these things to heart. Dr. Richardson is going through some personal issues. Not that it excuses him, but what kind of issues? Barbara hesitated as if betraying a confidence. His son Ethan, he's 19, a med student. They have a complicated relationship. The boy almost... She stopped, seeming to regret starting the conversation. Almost what? About 2 years ago, Ethan had a serious health crisis during a vacation. He almost didn't make it. Dr. Richardson has never forgiven himself for not being there when his son needed him most. Since then, he's become even harder to deal with. Ashley took in the information silently. It didn't justify his behavior, but at least it explained some of his bitterness. Barbara, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you think I should give up? Look for work somewhere else? Barbara looked her in the eyes seriously. Honey, in 30 years in this profession, I've seen plenty of arrogant doctors come and go. But I've also seen skilled nurses like you earn their place. The choice is yours, but know this, you have talent. Don't let one person's bitterness destroy your dreams. That night, Ashley called home. Her mother's voice on the other end was like a balm for her wounded soul. How's work, sweetheart? It's hard, Mom. Really hard. Do you want to talk about it? Ashley told Mrs. Dorothy everything, who listened patiently without interrupting her once. Ashley, her mother said when she finished, do you remember what I always taught you about people who hurt others for no reason? That they carry a pain greater than what they cause? Exactly. That doctor must be suffering deeply to treat you like this. It doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. And you know what else? You're my daughter. You've got the Johnsons' blood running through your veins. We don't give up easily. But Mom, it's so humiliating. Every day there's a new insult. And you're going to prove him and everyone else who judged you wrong. Not for what they deserve, but for what you deserve. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The talk with her mother renewed Ashley's strength. She decided she would stay at the hospital and prove her worth, no matter how much Dr. Michael tried to humiliate her. But fate had an even greater test in store for her determination. The following Monday, Ashley arrived early for her shift. She loved these quiet moments when she could gather her thoughts and mentally prepare for another day of challenges. She was checking the equipment when she heard raised voices coming from the emergency reception. One was familiar, Dr. Michael's. The other, younger, seemed to be arguing with him. Dad, you have to listen to me. Ethan, I don't have time for your crises right now. I have important surgeries today. Crises? The young man's voice grew louder. I'm trying to tell you about my nightmares, about how I can't sleep, and you call that a crisis, sir? Ashley moved discreetly toward the door, not to eavesdrop, but to pass through the hallway toward the pharmacy. Without meaning to, she caught sight of the two. Dr. Michael had his back to her, but the young man faced her. He was a medium-height brunette with features strikingly similar to his father's. What stood out most to Ashley was the pain in his expression. It wasn't just sadness. It was something deeper, like he was carrying an invisible weight. Ethan, you've been through this phase before. The doctor said it was normal to have some symptoms after what happened, but it's been 2 years. Dad, you don't understand. I need to talk to you about that time. About the nurse who... Enough, Dr. Michael cut him off. I don't want to hear another word about it. You're fine, you survived, and that's what matters. Now I have work to do. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of the hallway, watching his father walk away. Ashley noticed he was trembling slightly and decided to approach. Excuse me, she said softly. Are you feeling okay? The young man looked at her, and for a moment, Ashley had the strange feeling he recognized her. But that was impossible. She'd never seen him before. Yeah, thanks, Ethan replied, though his voice betrayed him. Would you like some water? There's a machine right over there. That'd be kind of you. Ashley fetched the water, and when she returned, Ethan was sitting in one of the reception chairs, his hands visibly shaking. Here you go, she offered the cup. Thanks. He took a sip and looked at her again. Do you work here? Yes, I'm a nurse. Ashley Johnson. Ethan, he introduced himself, leaving out his last name. You're new here, aren't you? Fairly new. 2 weeks. Ethan nodded and fell silent for a moment. Ashley sensed he wanted to say something but didn't know how to start. Can I ask you a weird question? He finally said. Sure. Have you ever worked at a hospital in the country? In Louisiana, maybe? The question caught Ashley off guard. Yes, in Lafayette. Why? Ethan opened his mouth to answer, but just then Dr. Michael reappeared in the hallway. Ethan, you're still here? Don't you have class today? I was just leaving, Dad. The young man quickly stood up. Dr. Michael then noticed Ashley talking to his son, and his expression changed completely. Nurse Johnson, he said in an icy tone. I wasn't aware it was part of your duties to chat with visitors during work hours. Doctor, I only offered your son some water. He seemed unwell. My son is perfectly fine, and I suggest you focus on your professional responsibilities. Ethan looked at his father with deep disappointment. Dad, she was just being kind. Why do you have to be like this? Ethan, go to college. Now. The young man glanced at Ashley one more time, as if wanting to say something important, but only murmured a thank you and left. Dr. Michael watched his son walk away before turning back to Ashley. Nurse Johnson, let me make one thing very clear. My family is none of your concern. Keep your distance. Yes, Doctor. But as he walked away, Ashley couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's strange question about whether she had worked in rural Louisiana. There was something in the way he had looked at her, as if trying to remember something. For the rest of the day, she tried to focus on work, but the image of the troubled young man stayed in her mind. There was a sadness in him that went beyond normal family issues. It was as if he carried some unresolved trauma. During lunch, Ashley decided to find Barbara to better understand the situation. Barbara, can I ask you something about Dr. Richardson's son? Ethan? What do you want to know? You mentioned he had a serious health issue 2 years ago. What exactly happened? Barbara glanced around to make sure no one was listening. It was during summer vacation. The family had gone to a small town in rural Louisiana. I don't remember the name. Ethan had a severe allergic reaction to something, almost went into anaphylactic shock. Dr. Richardson says it was a desperate situation. Ashley's heart raced. Rural Louisiana? Do you know which town? I think it was near Lafayette. Why do you ask? It's just, I was actually working in Lafayette at that time. I treated some cases of severe allergic reactions during the summer 2 years ago. Really? What a coincidence! But Ashley didn't think it was a coincidence. She began recalling specific cases from that time. There had been a few tourists who arrived at the hospital in critical condition, suffering from allergic reactions to local plants. One case in particular came to mind with striking clarity. A young man around 17 with dark hair, brought in by his desperate parents. He had gone into anaphylactic shock after contact with a poisonous local plant. The case was so severe that she had pulled extra shifts to monitor his recovery. Barbara, Ashley said slowly, do you know if Ethan was hospitalized for several days? From what Dr. Richardson said, yes. It was very serious. He claims he's never been so scared in his life. The pieces began falling into place in Ashley's mind. If it really was the same case, she understood why Ethan had recognized her and why he had specifically asked about her working in rural Louisiana. But there was a problem. If she was right, that meant Dr. Richardson should remember her too. After all, she had spent 3 straight days caring for Ethan, talking to his parents, explaining procedures. Unless... Ashley tried to recall the details. The patient's father had always been very agitated, constantly leaving and returning to the room. Most of the time it was the mother who stayed with their son, and Ashley remembered that the man had barely looked at her directly. He always seemed distracted or on the phone. Could it be that Had Michael simply not paid enough attention to remember her face? Ashley spent the rest of the day trying to decide whether to bring the matter up directly with Ethan or Dr. Michael. But she was afraid of being mistaken and ending up in an even more awkward situation. The answer to her doubts came unexpectedly. On Wednesday, during her lunch break, Ashley was in the hospital garden when she saw Ethan sitting alone on a bench, flipping through what looked like an old notebook. She hesitated for a moment, remembering Dr. Michael's warning about keeping her distance from his family, but her curiosity and compassion for the young man won out. "Ethan," she approached cautiously. "Do you mind if I sit here?" He looked up, and once again Ashley had the feeling he was studying her carefully. "Of course." He quickly closed the notebook. "Ashley, right?" "That's right. How are you feeling today?" "Better." He smiled for the first time since she'd met him. "Thank you for being kind to me yesterday. I was going through a tough time. Do you want to talk about it? Sometimes it helps to talk to someone outside the situation." Ethan fell silent for a long moment, as if wrestling with himself. "Ashley," he finally said, "can I ask you a very specific question?" "Of course." 2 years ago, did you treat a young man at the hospital in Lafayette? A severe allergic reaction case during the summer?" Ashley's heart nearly stopped. "Ethan, was that you?" He nodded slowly, his eyes filling with tears. "I knew I recognized you. For 2 years I've dreamed about your face. You saved my life." Ashley felt a deep emotion welling up in her chest. She remembered clearly now. Ethan was the young man who had arrived in critical condition, his parents frantic. She had spent sleepless nights monitoring every change in his vitals. "My God, Ethan, how are you? Did you recover completely?" "Physically, yes, but..." He hesitated. "I never got to thank you properly. I remember everything. How you stayed in my room through the night, checking if I was breathing okay. How you talked to me when I was scared. How you reassured my mother that I'd be fine." Tears began rolling down Ashley's face. "Ethan, you don't have to thank me. It was my job." "No." He shook his head. "It was so much more than a job. You cared for me like I was family. And now..." "And now what?" "And now my father treats you like you're nothing. He has no idea who you are, what you did." Ashley finally understood the full extent of the situation. Dr. Michael truly didn't recognize her. To him, she was just another unqualified nurse from the countryside. "Ethan, your father doesn't know I was the one who treated you. No idea. He was so stressed back then, always leaving the hospital to make calls, talking to doctors here in New York. My mother was the one who stayed by my side. And she remembers you very well." "Your mother remembers me?" "Of course. She always talks about the angel nurse who saved her son. That's what she calls you. Angel nurse." Ashley could hardly believe what she was hearing. For 2 weeks she had endured humiliation from a man who didn't even know she had saved his son's life. "Ethan, why don't you tell your father?" "I tried. Just yesterday I tried to talk to him about it, but he never lets me finish. He doesn't like talking about that time. I think he feels guilty for not being there when I needed him most." "And you? How are you handling all this?" Ethan let out a deep sigh. "I have nightmares. I wake up in the middle of the night unable to breathe, as if I were having that allergic reaction all over again. The doctors say it's post-traumatic stress. But you know what bothers me the most?" "What?" "Not being able to thank you properly. For 2 years I wanted to find you, but I didn't know your full name or how to locate you. When I saw you here at the hospital, it felt like a miracle had happened. But then I saw how my father treats you and..." Ethan couldn't finish his sentence. He was clearly emotional. "Ethan," Ashley took his hand, "you don't need to carry this guilt. I chose to take care of you because I believe every life is precious. Seeing you here, recovered, studying medicine, that's the greatest thanks I could ever receive. But my father..." "Your father is a complicated man, but he's not evil. He just doesn't know who I am. And maybe it's better that way for now." "What do you mean?" "Ethan, if you tell him now, he might think I approached you on purpose, trying to benefit somehow. I need to earn my place here, on my own merit." Ethan looked at her with admiration. "You're amazing. Even after everything he's put you through, you still care about his reputation. It's not about him, Ethan. It's about me. I need to prove to myself that I can overcome these challenges." They talked for a few more minutes, until Ethan had to leave for college. Before saying goodbye, he made a request. "Ashley, can I visit you sometimes?" Talking to you helps me deal with the nightmares. Of course, Ethan. But let's be discreet, okay? I don't want your father thinking I'm taking advantage of the situation. Understood. When Ethan left, Ashley stayed alone in the garden, trying to process everything she just learned. The irony of the situation was almost surreal. The man who humiliated her most at the hospital owed her his son's life. But instead of anger or a desire for revenge, Ashley felt deep sadness for Dr. Michael. He was missing the chance to know someone who had done something extraordinary for his family, all because of his own prejudices. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. In the days that followed, Ashley continued enduring Dr. Michael's humiliations, but now with a completely different perspective. Every sarcastic comment, every disdainful look, every arrogant order. She took it all while thinking of the young man she'd saved 2 years earlier. Ethan began visiting her during breaks, always discreetly. These conversations became precious to both of them. He found peace for his trauma, and she found strength to keep going. Ashley, he said one Thursday afternoon, can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Of course. That night, when I was at my worst in that fifth-rate hospital in Lafayette, I heard you talking to my mother in the hallway. You both thought I was asleep, but I was conscious. What did you hear? My mother was crying, desperate, thinking that I wouldn't make it. And you told her, Mrs. Jennifer, your son will be okay. I promise I'll take care of him like he's my own brother. Ashley vaguely remembered the conversation. Jennifer had been truly distraught that night, and Ashley had done everything to comfort her. And you kept your promise, Ethan continued. You stayed with me all night, checking my vitals every hour. When I woke up the next morning and saw you there, asleep in the chair beside my bed, I knew I was safe. Ethan, let me finish, he gently interrupted. That promise you made to my mother changed the course of my life. Not just because you saved me physically, but because you showed me what true professional dedication means. That's why I'm studying medicine. I want to be like you. Ashley was too moved to respond. She had never imagined her actions could have such a profound impact on someone's life. But there's one thing that makes me really sad, Ethan continued. What? Seeing how my father treats you. Every time I witness it, I want to shout out who you really are. It's like he's humiliating an angel without even realizing it. Ethan, promise me one thing. What? Don't tell him anything yet. When I feel the time is right, I'll tell him myself. Okay? Ethan hesitated but finally agreed. All right, but this can't go on forever, Ashley. It's not fair to you. That night, Ashley called home again. This time, she wanted to tell her mother about the incredible discovery. Mom, do you remember that young man I took care of 2 years ago? The one who had the severe allergic reaction? Of course I remember. You barely left the hospital for 3 days. Why? He's the son of the doctor who's been humiliating me here. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. My dear, Mrs. Dorothy finally said, are you sure? Absolutely. I spoke with him. It's the same Ethan. And his father doesn't know, has no idea. He doesn't even remember me. Ashley, this is God's work. It can't be a coincidence. I think so too, Mom. But I don't know what to do with this information. Sweetheart, do you remember what I always taught you about doing good? That we do it because it's right, not because we expect a reward. Exactly. You saved that boy because it was your duty as a nurse and as a human being. The fact that his father is treating you poorly now doesn't change that. But Mom, it's so hard to endure the humiliation, knowing he owes me his son's life. Ashley, maybe this is precisely the test God is placing in your life, to see if you'll keep being the good person you are even when you're treated unfairly. Her mother's words brought Ashley a deep sense of peace. She decided she would continue doing her job to the best of her ability, no matter how Dr. Michael treated her. But fate still had more surprises in store. The following Friday, during an especially busy shift, an emergency arrived at the hospital that would change everything. An ambulance brought in a woman around 40 years old in critical condition. She had been in a car accident and was suspected of having a head injury. The victim was Jennifer, Dr. Michael's wife. Ashley was at the nursing station when she saw Dr. Michael running down the hall toward the emergency room, his face twisted in panic, an expression she had never seen before. "Jennifer, where's my wife?" he shouted at anyone in his path. Dr. Thompson intercepted him before he could reach the emergency room. "Michael, you need to calm down. Jennifer is being treated by the best team. You can't go in there right now." "What do you mean I can't go in? I'm a doctor. That's my wife." "That's exactly why you can't go in. You're emotionally involved." Ashley watched from a distance, feeling deep compassion for Dr. Michael. No matter how he had treated her, no one deserved the agony of seeing a loved one in danger. Dr. Michael was eventually persuaded to wait outside. Ashley saw him sit in a hallway chair, his hands shaking, his face pale. For a moment, she hesitated. After all the humiliation she'd endured, it would be understandable if she simply ignored his suffering. But that wasn't what her heart told her to do. Carefully, Ashley approached him. "Doctor," she said softly, "can I get you some coffee?" Dr. Michael looked up at her in surprise. It was the first time she had approached him spontaneously, and moreover, to offer help. He hesitated, clearly confused by receiving kindness from someone he had treated so poorly. "Thank you, but you don't have to." "Are you sure? You look very pale." "Nurse Johnson." He looked at her with a different expression, less hostile. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what, doctor?" "Being kind to me. After how I treated you." Ashley took a deep breath before answering. "Because you're suffering, and no one deserves to suffer alone." Dr. Michael stared at her for a long moment, as if seeing her for the first time. "I'll take the coffee," he said quietly. Ashley went to get the coffee, and when she returned, she found Ethan hugging his father in the hallway. The young man had arrived as soon as he heard about the accident. "How is she, Dad?" "We don't know yet. The doctors are running all the tests." Ethan noticed Ashley approaching with the coffee and smiled sadly. "Hi, Ashley. Thank you for taking care of my dad." Dr. Michael looked from his son to Ashley, realizing they knew each other. "Have you two met before?" Ethan and Ashley exchanged a quick glance. "She offered me water one day when I wasn't feeling well," Ethan replied, leaving out the details. Dr. Michael took the coffee from Ashley's hands. "Thank you," he said, and for the first time his voice held no trace of hostility. The three stood in silence for a few minutes until Dr. Thompson appeared with news. "Michael, Jennifer is stable. No severe head trauma, just a mild concussion. She'll be fine." The relief on Dr. Michael's face was visible. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Can I see her?" "Yes, but she's still unconscious. She should wake up in the next few hours." After Dr. Thompson walked away, Dr. Michael turned to Ashley. "Nurse Johnson," he said, his voice different now, more human. "Thank you for the coffee and for the kindness." "You're welcome, Doctor. I'm glad your wife is okay." When Dr. Michael went in to see Jennifer, Ethan stayed in the hallway with Ashley. "Did you see how differently he treated you just now?" Ethan said. "Sometimes suffering makes people show who they really are beneath the mask. Your father isn't a bad person, Ethan. He's just hurting inside. How can you be so understanding after everything? Because holding on to resentment is like carrying rocks in your backpack. It only weighs down the one carrying it." Ethan smiled. "My mum will want to see you when she wakes up. She always asks about you." "She really remembers me." "How could she forget? You've been an angel to our family." 2 hours later, Jennifer woke up. Ashley was passing through the hallway when she saw Dr. Michael leaving the room with tears in his eyes. This time, tears of relief. "How is she?" Ashley asked. "Good. Confused, but good," he replied. "Nurse Johnson, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why were you kind to me today? It would have been understandable if you'd ignored my pain." Ashley looked directly into his eyes. "Doctor, I became a nurse to care for people. That includes everyone, even those who aren't kind to me." Dr. Michael lowered his head, clearly ashamed. "I haven't been professional with you. I'm sorry." It was the first time he had apologized, and Ashley felt something had shifted between them. Thank you, doctor. That means a lot to me. Can I ask you a favor? Of course. Jennifer is asking to see you. She said she recognized your voice in the hallway. Ashley's heart raced. If Jennifer had recognized her by her voice, that meant the truth was close. Are you sure? She wants to see me. Yes. In fact, she insisted. Said she needs to thank you for something. Ashley looked at Ethan, who was a few feet away. He nodded encouragingly. All right, doctor, I'll talk to her. When Ashley entered the room, Jennifer was lying down with her head bandaged, but her eyes were bright and alert. I knew it was you, Jennifer said as soon as she saw her. I recognized your voice in the hallway. How are you feeling? Better now that I see you, Ashley, right? Yes, ma'am. Sit here. Jennifer pointed to the chair beside the bed. I need to talk to you. Ashley sat down, nervous about what was coming. Ashley, do you know who I am? Dr. Michael's wife. And do you know who my son is? Ethan. Jennifer smiled. The Ethan you saved 2 years ago in Lafayette. Ashley took a deep breath. You remember me? How could I forget? You saved my son's life. You were our angel nurse. Tears began to stream down Ashley's face. Mrs. Jennifer. For 2 years I prayed that one day I'd find you again and thank you properly. And now you're here taking care of my family once more. I didn't know you worked here when I came to New York City. It was a coincidence. It was fate, Jennifer corrected. And my husband? Does he know who you are? No, Ashley shook her head. And he's been difficult with me. Jennifer closed her eyes, clearly frustrated. Ashley, my husband can be very proud and arrogant, especially when he's dealing with his own insecurities. But he's not a bad man. He's just lost. I know, Mrs. Jennifer. Ethan explained his trauma from what happened. It's more complicated than that, Jennifer sighed. Michael feels guilty because when Ethan was sick, he didn't know how to help. He's a doctor, but when he was needed most, he felt completely useless. You took control of the situation and saved our son while he was panicking. But that's understandable. When it's our family, it's hard to stay objective. Try telling him that. Michael has never forgiven himself for feeling helpless in that moment. And now he's treating you poorly because, deep down, you represent everything he wishes he could be as a professional. Ashley began to understand the complexity of the situation. Mrs. Jennifer, what do you think I should do? I need to tell him who you are. He has the right to know, and you have the right to be recognized for what you did. But what if he thinks I came here to take advantage somehow? Ashley, when I tell him about your kindness today, about how you've been gentle with us even after how he treated you, he'll understand the kind of person you are. At that moment, Dr. Michael entered the room. How are you feeling, love? Better. Michael, sit here. I need to tell you something very important about Ashley. Dr. Michael looked from Jennifer to Ashley, clearly confused. What is it? Michael, Jennifer took her husband's hand. Do you remember Lafayette, what happened to Ethan? Of course. How could I forget? It was the worst moment of my life. And do you remember the nurse who cared for him? The one who stayed by his bedside for 3 nights straight? The one who saved our son's life? I vaguely remember. Why are you asking this? Jennifer looked at Ashley and then back at her husband. Michael, this is her. Ashley is the nurse who saved Ethan. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Michael looked at Ashley as if she were an apparition. What did you say? Ashley is our angel nurse, Michael. The same person you've been belittling for weeks. Dr. Michael stood completely still, as if his brain were struggling to process conflicting information. This can't be possible, he murmured. Oh, it is, Jennifer said firmly. And not just that. Today, when I was at that accident, when you were desperate in the hallway, who came to comfort you? Who brought you coffee? The same person you've been treating like she's worthless, Doctor. Michael looked at Ashley with an expression of complete shock. It's really you? Yes, Doctor, Ashley replied softly. But why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to earn my place here on my own merit, not because of a debt from the past. Dr. Michael stood abruptly and began pacing the room, running his hands through his hair. My God, what have I done?" he muttered. "What have I done?" "Michael," Jennifer called. "Sit down." "Jennifer, I humiliated the person who saved our son. His voice broke. "And now you have the chance to make it right." Dr. Michael turned to Ashley, and she could see tears forming in his eyes. "Ashley, I have no words for what I've done. No excuses." "Doctor—" "No," he interrupted. "Let me speak. For weeks, I humiliated, disrespected, and tried to belittle the person who did the most important thing anyone has ever done for my family. I'm a monster." "You're not a monster," Ashley said gently. "You're a father who went through trauma and never processed it properly. How can you defend me after everything? Because resentment doesn't heal anything, Doctor, and because your son told me what you went through back then." Dr. Michael looked at her in disbelief. Ethan knew. He recognized me on the first day. He's been trying to tell you for weeks, but you never let him finish." "My God." Dr. Michael sank heavily into a chair. "I'm even worse than I thought." Ashley stood and moved closer to him. "Doctor, can I tell you exactly what happened that night in Lafayette?" "Please." "Ethan arrived at the hospital in anaphylactic shock. You were desperate, especially Mrs. Jennifer. You kept leaving and coming back, trying to reach doctors here in New York City. It was understandable. You wanted the best for your son." Dr. Michael listened in silence, absorbing every word. "I was responsible for monitoring Ethan. That first night his vitals were very unstable. Mrs. Jennifer couldn't stop crying, convinced she was going to lose him. I promised her I'd care for him like he was my own brother." "And you kept that promise," Jennifer added. "I stayed by his bed for 3 nights straight, Doctor. Not because it was my professional duty, but because I felt a special connection to that young man. He reminded me of my little brother." Dr. Michael was openly crying now. "Ashley, I never properly thanked you for what you did." "You don't have to thank me, Doctor. Seeing Ethan now, studying medicine, healthy and happy, that's all the thanks I need. But I have to make up for the humiliation You want to do something for me?" Ashley interrupted. "Anything. Let me keep working here and be judged by my work, not where I come from." Dr. Michael stood and, to everyone's surprise, knelt before Ashley. "Ashley Johnson, I beg your forgiveness. Not just for the humiliation these past weeks, but for failing to recognize the extraordinary person you are." "Doctor, get up." Ashley helped him to his feet. "Forgiveness was given a long time ago." "What do you mean?" "Doctor, I forgave you on the first day when I realized your anger came from a place of pain, not malice." Dr. Michael looked at her with admiration and disbelief. You really are an angel." "I'm just a nurse who believes everyone deserves a second chance." At that moment, Ethan walked into the room and immediately sensed the emotional tension in the air. "What happened?" he asked, looking at his father, who was visibly moved. "Ethan," Dr. Michael turned to his son, "your mother told me about Ashley." "Dad, I tried to tell you so many times." "I know, son, I know, and I'm sorry for never truly listening to you." Ethan looked at Ashley with a radiant smile. "Finally, now he knows who you really are." "Ethan," Dr. Michael stepped closer to his son, "I need to apologize to you too for not listening, for not valuing your feelings about that time." "Dad, it's okay now." "No, it's not. You tried to tell me about your nightmares, your trauma, and I dismissed it as dramatics. You wanted to tell me about the person who saved your life, and I refused to listen." Dr. Michael turned to Ashley again. "Ashley, Ethan told me he has nightmares about what happened. Could you talk to him about it? Maybe it'll help him process the trauma better." "Of course, Doctor. Actually, we've already been talking about it." "Talking? When?" Ethan and Ashley exchanged glances. "Dad, I've been meeting Ashley during my breaks. She's helped me a lot with the nightmares." "And you didn't tell me." "Dad, you forbade Ashley from coming near our family, remember?" Dr. Michael closed his eyes, clearly ashamed of his own actions. "I really am a fool." "Doctor," Ashley said gently, "the past is behind us. What matters now is how we move forward. Ashley, Dr. Michael looked her straight in the eyes, I want to do more than just apologize. I want you to know that from today on, you have my complete and unconditional respect. And more than that, I want to learn from you. Learn from me? Yes. You showed me today what true compassion means. Even after all the humiliation, you were able to offer me comfort in my moment of despair. That's something I, with all my arrogance, still haven't learned to do. Jennifer smiled from the bed. Michael, this is the first time in years I've seen you admit you still have something to learn. Jennifer, today I learned that medical knowledge without humanity is worthless. And Ashley, he turned to her again, you taught me that without saying a word, just through your actions. End of story. So, dear listener, what did you think of this story of forgiveness and redemption? How would you react if you were in Ashley's place? Share in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you've ever experienced something similar. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.